Hey, Katia. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, welcome today. Thank you for taking this time out to chat to me about your recent move journey. So you took part in the last move program alongside five or four other women, and just wanting to chat today about your experience and how you found it, and sort of post-move life to after-move life. Just anything that you want to chat about today would be amazing, just to share your experience.
No
Uh,
worries. Your help.
Firstly, maybe introducing yourself a little.
Sure. My name is Katia. I'm trying to think what part of intro. I'm currently a PhD candidate at RMIT University. I have been in Australia for almost 10 years now. I grew up in Canada before that, and was born in Russia before that. And oh God. I edit this out. um, I'm recently engaged to my partner of 4 years, and we have a puppy, a little golden retriever named Mishka. And for fun, we like to cook. So my partner's half Italian, so lots of food and wine. And in the lockdowns, I really got into gardening. We just bought a house, which is really exciting, with a huge garden outside. So definitely getting into the veggie patch and everything else that comes with that. And so far also planning our wedding. So a lot of exciting things going on, and as my mom called it, a tsunami of good news, just everything all at once. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's amazing. So beautiful to witness all those things. And a lot of them happened in the last or in that journey of move in the 4 months, which was amazing to be able to celebrate with you.
Mm.
So I guess the first question would be, when you decided to join Move, so it's back 6 months ago, possibly now. What were you sort of struggling with? Yeah, what sort of prompted you to reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a couple of different things. Firstly was my health. So I'd been struggling with long COVID symptoms for over a year and a half. Felt incredibly frustrated and honestly hopeless, having knocked on the door of every specialist in Melbourne. It's very, very difficult to go through that process, very frustrating, and disheartening. And unfortunately, after spending all that money and all of that effort, nobody could give me an answer. And my symptoms were really affecting my life, to the point where I had to take a pause from my PhD. I had to quit all of my other roles that I had been participating in, as well as really limit my life in terms of what I can do socially, physically. And I'm sure you understand that also affects your mental health as well, when it feels like your life is all of a sudden really small, and it feels like there's no end in sight. So that was one of the things. And second one was around the fact that I am finishing my PhD soon, and just was trying to figure out what I want to do with my career.
Yeah.
Um, I've done a few different things before, but it just feels like such an overwhelming thing. You know, the question they ask you when you're 18, what do you want to do with your life? Who do you want to be? And I was feeling indecision paralysis
Yeah.
around what to do next. And to the frustration of my fiance of, but let's just take a couple steps, let's try something, but it just felt too overwhelming and really, really scary. Um, and the third one was around the mental health. You know, I'd been struggling with anxiety, mostly from the beginning of the pandemic. I started my PhD at the exact same time as the pandemic started. So the coinciding of those two really big events just really triggered my anxiety. And I had been getting counseling for it, which has helped. But honestly, I just felt like there's still a lot more improvement that could be made.
Yeah.
And I came across Anna completely by accident. So because of initially because of the health symptoms, my partner had suggested maybe I should look into a personal trainer. And so I just Googled personal trainer in our area. So I was actually looking for gyms and such. And then all of a sudden, Anna's company came up, because she was about 2 blocks away from me. So it was a Google type of serendipity.
Yes.
So I think you've told me some other clients had seen your car. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, you never know where you come across it. And I mean, I've never considered life coaching before, to be honest. I wasn't really sure what it would be.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously, I was looking more for almost medical help at the time
Yeah.
and physical help along with those other things. So it just hadn't even crossed my mind that there could be a sort of a one-stop shop for all of those things.
Mhm.
So I didn't know what Anna did, and I ended up just taking a leap and
Yeah.
clicking on that initial call. And we had a chat, and Anna, you had me bawling, crying within
Oh.
like 10 minutes because you were asking me about kind of where I'm at and where I would like to be. And I was telling you at the time that I have so many exciting things coming up so soon. Like, I knew we were discussing getting engaged, so I knew that was in the near future. And I was so excited for that. And we were talking about buying a house, and I'm finishing my PhD and all of the things. But my health was preventing me from actually accomplishing that. And that was causing me a lot of stress to think that I might have to put things off, just really unsure how that was going to track anyway. And you had me just imagine what it would feel like if I got those things. And after we finished the call, I called my partner over, and I was like, I had the craziest phone call. Like, I was like, I think there's really something to this. And yeah, and he was really, really supportive. And actually, it was him that he said that was the catalyst for me doing it, because honestly, being a PhD student on scholarship, the cost was a huge barrier for me. I don't have a job at the moment.
Yep.
So I just sometimes in life, those can be barriers. And he was wonderful, and he said he would support me through it. And the reason is this. He said he has seen me try everything else. He had seen me knock on the door of every doctor. And yes, while this isn't a medical thing, perhaps it would just help me look at things from a different perspective. I
Mm.
came in with, I guess, with an open mind, but also my expectations. I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So, um, and the reason I decided to go for it in the end is actually I spoke to a really close friend of mine who had mentioned she was interested in life coaching, and I said, "Oh, we just came across Anna," and
Mm.
she'd actually told me that she's done a course, and it went very positively for her. So she would encourage me to try it.
Yep.
And then obviously I was also put in touch with your previous client,
Yep.
and she was wonderful, and she told me the same thing. I had no idea what to expect.
Yep.
But and she was also very encouraging about the group specifically. She said that she had she wasn't sure what to expect, and in terms of the other women,
Mhm.
how much that would help versus the sort of coursework part of
Yep.
it,
Yep.
but actually that it ended up being one of her favorite parts. So, um, but yeah, so that's kind of how I came to it, and it was, I guess, meant to be.
Good. It was, yeah, and I'm so glad you made that, yeah, first step, and the Google search that helped along the way.
Mm.
And yeah, it was like you said, those struggles in the beginning, right? There was quite a few different areas of life, but the main one was health, and that stood out, yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the next question flows on then, what sort of aspects of Move, yeah, did you find that really helped you
Mhm.
improve those struggles, or
Mm.
face those struggles, or overcome those struggles?
Yeah, sure. Um, I thought actually the fact that there was a variety of different elements to it that was really helpful, because they all were tailored towards different things. So, for example, in the one-on-ones, we really talked about quite personal things that it was then my choice whether I wanted to reveal that to the rest of the group or not.
Mhm.
So they're more like a therapy session, and we could target it towards a particular issue I was having, that week, um or in life. And on the other hand, then the books as well as the Zoom walks that we did,
Yeah.
though that was more kind of a download of information
Mhm.
in terms of different aspects of health and psychology, and looking at things. Um, that one was quite interesting, and I've mentioned this to you before, that I'd actually come across so many of those before, you know, from the types of smoothies you should have to whether you're you know, insecure attachment style and things like that, values. Because of my personal mental health struggles, and just my curiosity and interest in self-development, I've actually read quite a lot of books and looked into this on my own.
Mhm.
And so it was validating to hear that you'd had come across the same information.
Yep.
And on several occasions, I was even, I think, able to contribute a little bit
Yeah.
of suggesting, you know, a book here and there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really great with the women that we all helped each other.
Yes.
And that was the other component. So not just sharing, you know, a book or a podcast, things like that, but also there were moments when we really supported each other.
Yep.
So sometimes if someone was having a difficult time, you know, you really encouraged us to open up about it. And I think it was a little bit nerve-wracking in the beginning, but once we got to know each other,
Mm.
there were a few posts there on Facebook where people were really vulnerable and
Yes.
for help. And then more on a positive note, there were two times when one of the other participants was applying to get a house.
Yeah.
And then same thing with us when we were trying to get this house, and we were just sharing, you know, our vision board with the pictures of the house and saying, "Girls, please send us some luck. We need it." And also when we got engaged, and I posted that as well. So just kind of the outpouring of support.
Yes.
That was really, really lovely, and I'm hoping we can all stay in touch kind of long term. I know we've discussed maybe having occasional drinks or dinner, and even now M.O.V.E. has finished. We have posted a few more times on the group, and I think it is nice, especially when you're in your 30s and older. You know, it does become more difficult to make friends, and in this case, it's just a connection we have that we
Mm.
don't have with everyone else. We've gone through something together.
Yes. Yes.
So even though we're all different ages and different backgrounds and everything, we do have this shared experience. So hopefully we can stay together. But overall, yeah, I think it was interesting to see that it was the whole program had different elements to it,
Yeah.
and the different elements spoke to different people. Um,
Mm.
and same as with the client of yours, the previous one that I had spoken to, and she was saying that she was surprised that the small wins ended up becoming her favorite part.
Yeah.
And that was really great. It's a little bit nerve-wracking to remember, oh, did I write them down this week? And I think we all struggled with that dance.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a very vulnerable place to be in. But that did really encourage me. I'm actually going to show you here. This is what I'm doing now.
Uh-huh.
Continue doing the small wins, where I actually made myself a little board.
Yeah.
And my hope is that I can keep adding to all of the small wins to the point where it's overflowing. And so every time I feel a little bit insecure or vulnerable, I can kind of look back at it and just see I've done a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it. I love that you mentioned the different aspects, because that is M.O.V.E. There's so many different dimensions to it, because change and growth and healing, it needs to be on all different levels. And the community part of it, the encouraging, everyone motivating each other, and just that support to share these beautiful life experiences that you had throughout M.O.V.E. And we all got to celebrate with you. And also the sharing of wins. That's a huge part in transformation. And I love that you're flowing on with that. You're following what you've learned in M.O.V.E. and being able to really implement that into your life after M.O.V.E. And that was the purpose of it, is to show you guys tools and strategies for moving forward. So that you can make that a habit, make celebrating self a habit, make acknowledging yourself a habit, so you're more likely to make these changes. I love it. And that one-on-one, it's certainly where you can dive deeper into things that are personal to you. Love it. I love that feedback. Yeah. Did you have a biggest moment or a biggest aha moment in there? Because I know there's a lot of aha moments. Was there one specific one where you're like, oh gosh, I didn't know that before, but now I know, and it sort of helped me accept my past or accept that part of me? Was there a moment there, Katja, that you had?
Yeah, actually, it was interesting that a really powerful moment happened the first time we had a one-on-one. So I had never done, other than, you know, the short phone call we had before, I'd never done that type of, I'm gonna call it therapy. It's not, but in terms of feeling through the emotion, like actually, you know, and pretty much every time we had the one-on-one, I had a big cry, and, you know, it really kind of let out a lot of things. But the first time we did I guess a regression exercise where we looked back at from childhood onwards, and looked at the different choices that have been made, or I feel like have been made for me,
Mhm.
where I might have made choices because I was pleasing other people, whether it was starting something or continuing to do something, not quitting something, and going and just having those memories, and then fast forward to now and imagine what my life would have been if I had made those choices for myself
Yeah.
from childhood onwards. So it doesn't have to be even huge ones, but just something meaningful to me.
Mhm.
And that's really stuck with me. And that's actually, I've been thinking about that for the last 6 months. And that's that session, like, it's been driving a lot of my decision making, but just even just thinking about things from a different perspective. That was really big, because one thing I realized is that, um when I look at my life now and what it would have been, the big
Mhm.
elements, you know, living here with my partner, those would still be the same. That's not different at all. And the items that are different, one being career, that, you know, is a little bit difficult to change, but um small things like I've always wanted to do ballet. When I
Yep.
was a child, I wanted to be a ballerina, and I've said this my whole life, and it just occurred to me, why am I not doing it? It's actually a completely achievable goal. Obviously, in your 30s, like a little bit harder, but it is
Mhm.
achievable. I've found a school. I've even gone for a lesson now. I've told them I'm really nervous. You know, I haven't done ballet in 25 years, but they specialize in adult beginners. So it's actually been really interesting to kind of tap into those dreams and almost like feeding the inner child. Um,
Mm.
so really kind of exploring that. That's been interesting, because I think the second item I was mentioning about trying to figure out my career and how overwhelming it felt, kind of stepping back and thinking, but what did I always want to do?
Mm.
You know, sometimes you think a little bit too few steps ahead, and you think, oh, but this job's available, or this one's starting tomorrow, or I need money. But if you kind of go back a little bit and maybe into your childhood or your passions, and what do you really want? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna um regret and resent, and
Mhm.
feel unfulfilled if you don't tap into those wants and needs.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah. And I love that you mentioned that too, because we, you know, in during those one-on-ones, you got to go back, as you said, to certain childhood memories and revisit that, yeah, inner child. And yeah, often we give up things that we used to love doing, like your example with ballet. Yeah. And you get to go back to it. So you get to, you know, like you said, nourish that inner child. And that is part of moving forward and creating the life you want to live, is doing things you enjoy doing
Hmm.
and discovering them. Yeah. And I guess throughout Move, you're able to do that in many different aspects, which is beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see you've gone on and you're following through with the things that you've discovered. We need to integrate. We need to act, take action for things to change and shift and create the life we want to create. We actually need to do it.
Yeah. And again, it helps to have
Yeah.
that support group in terms of the integration, both yourself and the other women. Because I mean, one, I would say small thing, but you said that at the very beginning, and it was interesting that it came up almost every single time we had a call, was
Mm.
about women apologizing.
Yes.
Would always join a call late and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry." And I'm absolutely guilty of that. And you would always pull us up on it. And after a while, we pulled each other up on it. And now I think about it all day long. Every time I write an email, how do I not apologize?
Yeah.
Thank people for your patience, but you don't apologize. There's nothing to apologize for.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
allowed to be 5 minutes late. It does not
Yep.
make me a bad person. Such is life. So
Yeah. Beautiful. That's a great example. Yeah, and it is about retraining our language. And we've been taught to apologize for these things, for being late, and really, yeah, it's not worthy of an apology. I think thank you for your patience sounds so much more receptive than sorry. For minimizing, it's almost like you minimize yourself in that moment.
yes.
And
And it's just one example of just learning to be kinder to yourself
Yeah.
and picking yourself up on how do you talk to yourself. So I think
Mm-hmm.
there's always a narrative going on in our heads, but it's really hard to stop it and in
Yeah.
the moment to say, how come I said that to myself?
Yeah.
And try to rewire your brain that way. It's it takes a lot of practice, still working on it, but uh,
Mm.
yeah, there's some really good tips and suggestions. So.
Good. I'm glad you've been able to again utilize it. And, you know, when it comes into your daily routines or things that you're doing now, when you actually have that thought come in, oh, how can I not apologize? Then you've learnt it and you're integrating it, and everything from there flows on. Beautiful. Back to, I guess, before move, when you started to now, what would you, and I know health was that one concern for you, having the long COVID, experiencing that. And I guess pre to post move, what would you say? What changes have you noticed, or transformation or shifts within yourself? I'd love to hear.
Um, that's a big question. Okay, let me think. Well, first of all, I'll start with the small stuff. So there's daily things. So as an example, you had a smoothie as one of your recipes, you know. So, and I've mentioned to you before, I just can't do smoothies. Like I'm a very anyway. But what I've done is my partner loves smoothies. He just doesn't have time to make them. So I've decided, you know what, I'm actually going to make that recipe for him.
Yeah.
But I know I should drink it. I know it's good for me. So over time, what I started doing is I would make him a big one, and then I would pour out like a little bit for myself.
Yeah.
Just say, you know what, this is just my little bit of vitamins and everything for the day. But now we're about 50-50. So I've kind of gotten myself used to it. And I just know that it's good for me in terms of
Yes.
everything in there. So, and I know you've mentioned this before around, you know, sometimes families getting involved or when I was reading the book and all the other kind of nutritional suggestions, I would tell them, you know what, this is just what I'm cooking this week. Like
Good.
just give it a go with me and we'll see what happens. So did a few of those things. Obviously we did the walks. So
Yes.
thing I was trying to do on my own, you know, we bought a puppy and just wanted to do the walks, but it was just really challenging in the old house with how many steps, and it was just a environmental thing, but just reminding myself to get out there and try to do the walks. Luckily this house is much more conducive, so I've been doing that a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
um let's see, we're talking about manifesting before,
Yes.
so that's something I had done in the past, and we talked about it some more, and again it was really great to have help of the girls and kind of have that additional support. But I was able to manifest, you know, this house and my ring.
Yay.
Literally had pictures of almost the same ring as part of my vision board. And we've actually just booked our wedding venue, which is the venue I had on the vision board. So I'm not saying it's magic, it's obviously me suggesting it many, many times.
Yeah, you're attracting it.
But yeah, so doing that. And on the health side, it was a lot of it. Like one thing that stuck with me as well was, you know, that first initial call, and when obviously I was concerned about the cost, you said something like, but it's all about investing in yourself.
Mm.
And you know that your experience has been that men would often just say yes right away, versus women have to think about it and what does it mean for the finances of the house. And obviously in my case I had to actually ask for help because I just wasn't
Yep.
able to do it on my own. But that's actually been a really interesting learning as well, and almost a catalyst for everything else. It was
Mm.
an initial yes because you are investing in yourself and you are putting yourself first. And then obviously since you've invested in it, you should really spend the time and effort and actually do all the exercises and you know, budget the time and all of that. But it's almost just that attitude switch to say, you
Mm.
know what, I deserve the time and the space. So what I was doing before wasn't working, so I ended up taking a 3-month leave of absence, which again is a financial challenge, but again just putting myself first and saying that's just what I need.
Yep.
um, and saying that to my partner and saying this is just what I need right now.
Mm-hmm.
And doing all of the exercises we were doing and kind of putting that first. I mean, I actually just went back the other day to the what were they? Not the vision, values.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was one of the first things we did, was looked at values, and I was actually remembering what I had there, and I've been thinking in my head that I was like, oh, there's a couple more I need to add because it's been really popping up into my head. One being community, because we
Yeah.
just into this new neighborhood and we plan on being here for a very long time. So putting in that time and effort into um, prioritizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, having that top of mind, and actually making it as one of the values that you live.
Mm.
So those are just a number of examples. Um, I mean, one other one I would say is on the same topic of kind of holding space and
Yeah.
putting yourself first. I mean, the medical side has been so incredibly frustrating. And recently I've had an issue with a particular specialist that it's been 5 months now, and they have just absolutely jerked me around and will not give me even an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at getting in my appointment in February next year, like if for something that's urgent medical. Anyway, I've actually had to learn to stand up for myself.
Yay.
Yeah, the people pleasing, I hate confrontation. It gives me so much anxiety. And it took me 2 weeks to draft this email.
Uh-huh.
And I even had to use Chat GPT because I wasn't being stern enough.
Yeah.
It said rewrite it into a stern and urgent letter to
Yeah.
say this, enough is enough, and this is not acceptable.
Good.
And it elicited me pretty much an instant reply. So
Good. Standing up for yourself. I love that.
yeah,
Your word.
very scary. But I mean, my partner calls it being a squeaky wheel. But point is, you do have to put yourself first, and make yourself known and kind of create that space. So
Mm.
that's another one. It's almost, I guess, a self-esteem exercise, but
Yes. Yeah. That was
yeah.
a big topic, yeah, in Move, was self-esteem, yeah, and how to really create that from the inside and not looking to the external to change something to how you feel internally. But it was certainly a deep dive into many internal areas in the emotional world as well. How sort of post move in the emotions, how would you say that's been helpful?
On the emotional side, I mean, there was a few topics that came up in Move that I ended up talking to my partner with. So there was just a few things that were good kind of conversational starters.
Yes.
One thing I can think of is, I had realized before, I've been told by counselors about having insecure attachment style. But I did think of the analogy of the island and the wave was interesting because it was very hard to understand why it would upset someone other than being clingy. So it
Yeah.
might be a bit annoying, but other than being annoying, why is it so difficult to take, or just not understanding how it might feel for the other person?
Yep.
And so both going through the session, we explained it, but even at the end, when we had our last kind of goodbye dinner and meeting your partner, Ren, and she was talking about kind of her opinion on the topic, and we were just sharing
Yeah.
ideas, and that was just really helpful to kind of chat through that. It was interesting. I think we went around the table and each one of us was either an island or a
Yeah.
wave. So it's not that, necessarily some women, some people are like one type of personality, or it just depends. But just trying to see it from a different perspective. And I think that's kind of what happened with a lot of the topics, that I might have even come across it before. I might have
Yes.
read about it or someone mentioned to me, but just looking at it from a slightly different lens, and able to have that discussion with everyone else about their experiences and how they might have applied something, or just how the same issue might be coming up in completely different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that was definitely interesting.
That's the power of the group, and I experience it in those move sessions and over the months, that when you are in that group and you get to express yourself, you get to share your experiences. Like you said, you may have heard it 10 times from someone else. It's not until you hit it that 11th time from someone totally else, someone else, where it then hits home and you're like, I get it. All right, and that resonates. And then you take the action, but you just needed to hear it from, in that particular way.
Hmm.
And that's where, again, that that group environment offers that. It offers, so many different experiences, life experiences from different people, where that moment might just be the one you needed to hear from that particular person. Yeah. And also the joining of M.O.V.E. I love that you said in that moment where you said yes to you, where you were saying yes to your worth. 100%. Yeah. I can resonate with that. The first program I ever joined, coaching program, was in that moment where I said yes to myself. I'm like, I am worth it. Yeah. I'm investing in myself. And then hearing that it's, sort of spiraled on or rippled on, the ripple effect to your partner, whether it's a smoothie or your relationship, little tips there. It's awesome. Like, I love hearing that. And you certainly did bring a lot to the group, which I'm very grateful for. And that, again, is the idea of the group, that we all, I don't know everything. I'd like to think I do sometimes, but no. It's just a matter of then, having that experience with a group that, like you said, continues on post-move, that you can have that connection, that you've all been through the same or similar experience of transformation and growth, which connects you on a different level. And it's proven in the other groups as well that connection continues, which is so beautiful to see. In talking about, I guess, someone that's looking at joining M.O.V.E. or is sort of not sure, yes or no, or what direction to go in, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, first of all, give it a go, in terms of every experience is an important experience, I'd say, and that's something different. Like for me, like I said, I wasn't looking for it. It just came kind of out of nowhere. And from what I understand from some of the other participants as well, they've tried lots of other things.
Yes.
And so those things didn't work. And so, look, this might work, it might not work. There's no guarantee, of course. But it's just one more thing to try, and who knows, it might be the right one. And the thing that sold it to me is that it was sort of a one-stop shop, if you will, that I was having challenges in a few different areas. And so this was a place to kind of try to work through all of those at the same time. And I also like that it was an intensive, because luckily for me, I know this is a challenge for people that are working full time and have to, take a little bit of, or have kids. So I'm lucky enough that so at the time, I didn't have kids, and I was able to take that time off just for medical reasons.
Yeah.
And so I was able to focus it. I think in the first couple of weeks, I even said to you, can we do it more intensively? Like, I've actually got all this time. Like, I want to really
Yes.
get that wave of motivation, and then it kind of wanes later. So it was like, well, I've got it. Can we do more? And you actually said, no, this is enough. Believe me, like, just absorb it more.
Yeah.
So absolutely, I think there's a lot of positive elements. I think obviously every person's different, though. You have to decide if it's right for you. I think it would be helpful for people to know that, first of all, there are the different elements. I think I wasn't like the email that was sent, in terms of, it says in dot points exactly what's included, but to kind of picture how that's going to integrate with your life. Because I think for some people it was more challenging than others, that you do have to step out for half an hour during lunch, and if you're at work, that could be, you have to think of your schedule in that sense. There was a point where I was traveling overseas, and I was really optimistic about being able to continue doing the Zooms, but it ended up just being too difficult. It was quite late at night, and I ended up watching the videos afterwards.
Yeah.
But another thing to keep in mind, how does it fit with your life right now versus later? And I think that was another thing you said in our first call, where you were saying, but there's one starting soon, or you could do one 4 months down the track. It's your choice. But I was thinking, but in 4 months, I'd rather already be so much further ahead. I don't really want to wait to kind of start my life, let's say.
Yeah.
And the other one that I mentioned as well is around, it is very helpful in the program to be very open-minded. There's a lot of topics that are covered, from psychology to nutrition, and everybody's different. And so certain things, like I was mentioning, chakras, for example, or mind-body connection, it is helpful to be open-minded to those concepts, or even have some kind of knowledge about them ahead of time. So yeah, like you just get a lot more out of it if you're willing to consider different perspectives.
Yeah. And I love it. That wraps it up really, because open mind, we want to have an open mind. Right? If we're too closed off in life, we're not going to see everything. We're not going to see all those different possibilities and opportunities. And that is very much one of my intentions with M.O.V.E. is to help people see things differently, see through a different lens, perhaps coming in with a lens of not feeling worthy or not accepting yourself or feeling insecure as opposed to post-move, seeing through a lens of love, acceptance, compassion, understanding. Then you're going to have a different reality. You're going to see things differently, and that reality will certainly look differently. And so, as you said, open mind is a beautiful way to certainly help people that are choosing to take the journey, to come in with that open mind, that anything's possible too. Yeah, people take different things from it, like you have, I suppose the other ladies. And fitting it into your life, like that is again one of the intentions for M.O.V.E. is that fitting it into your schedule, into everyone's busy schedule, maybe like say kids, work, but making that time, because if we're not going to make that time for ourselves, we never will. And it's so challenging to make that time for yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest shifts that happens too, that those that join, they then start making time for themselves. And that builds the self-esteem, that builds the worthiness, feeling worthy, because you're doing something for you. So you've had amazing.
You have to have that contract with yourself.
Yeah.
The moment you say yes, you have to say, okay, but then I'm actually going to put in the time and do this.
Correct.
Because, if you're not going to do it properly, you're not going to get as much out of it. I shouldn't say properly. It's more just investing in yourself and investing that time into your own growth.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, as you said, and it's a growth journey. We're all here to grow, and I think growing together is beautiful. And every session or over the journey, I certainly grew with you all as well, which is nice that we can share that moment or that experience together. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything might be helpful for someone, or your experience before we?
I think we've actually covered a lot. So, I don't know. I quite enjoyed the way we finished it off. Actually, with you had us. So at the very beginning, we had written down our beliefs or self constraining kind of beliefs, and took it out of the notebook. Which, in retrospect, I should have not written my life goals on the other side. Weird trouble. But just ripping like that, having that physical experience of ripping it out of the notebook, and then we threw it into the fire, things like that, I think are actually quite symbolic. And I like that in the end we decided it wasn't part of the program necessarily, but we decided to just go for that dinner. So that's indicative of the fact that we've built a bond. And we had only met in person once before, so it was really nice to do that again. And maybe even could be part of the M.O.V.E. program permanently, that there's a dinner at the end. So I thought that was really nice, and it was lovely to meet your partner. And I know you guys don't mind waving from the car, but that's another one that could be interesting in future, is maybe even going out for drinks with the partners, because I'm sure they all heard all about this for 4 months.
Very true. Yeah,
so it might be
together.
Yeah, it just gives us so much context.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, other than that, just wish all of the ladies absolutely the best. And I know we've all gone through a lot, and there's still more to come. And thank you for taking us through that journey.
Oh, thank you, Katia. I'm so blessed to have had you on that journey. And certainly we'll be connecting, moving forward in our journeys. That's the connection we build throughout, which is amazing to have. And you get to talk, like we said that last dinner, you get to have these deep chats that you just, everyone's learned the same things. You get to have those experiences together and then reflect on them and go even deeper and build those beautiful connections. So thank you again. Thank you for today. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. And I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Absolutely. No worries. Bye. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.